All right, I see some other super chats here. This is Joel Z. Joel Z says, I believe in the Trinity and that it greatly explains the passages, including the Son and Spirit is divine. But how can Jesus be God, but yet be or seem subordinate to the Father? Thank you and God bless. Yeah, well, you have to remember here that it's not just that Jesus is God. You know, obviously that's an emphasis that we have, and it could possibly lead people to think, you know, that that's all we believe. I'm not saying that's what you believe, Joel, but we put the emphasis on Christ's deity because that's usually what people in our day deny. In the past, Christians put greater emphasis on Christ's humanity because, by and large, I mean, most people don't know this. Before the 4th century Council of Nicaea, the vast majority of heretics didn't deny the deity of Jesus, right? The heretics prior to Nicaea included groups like the modalists, who said that Jesus is the Father. And so the issue there wasn't Jesus' deity, but his distinct personhood from the Father as a member in the Godhead. So against the modalists, they didn't have to prove that Christ was God or that he's a man, but that he was a distinct person from the Father. There were various Gnostic groups like the Docetists and various Gnostic forms of heresy where you don't have Jesus' deity being denied. They affirmed that Jesus was God. What they denied was his true humanity. And so they were opposing these groups. I'm not saying this accounts for every group before Nicaea, but by and large, the heresies at that time had more to do with denials of the Son's true humanity or his distinction as a person from the Father, not his true deity. This was widely affirmed, widely recognized, and of course, it was exclusively recognized within the church. I mean, there was no clamoring out. I mean, nobody in the church was saying something else. All these people are either excommunicated individuals or individuals that arise from without. But so in our day, the emphasis falls on the deity of Christ because that's what people are denying. And so the thing that some people get the impression is that, well, but Jesus is a man, and you look at the New Testament, he's a man, and he's subordinate to the Father, and he ate, and he slept, and he died, and all these things. Well, I mean, again, what we have to remember is that Jesus is not only God, he also became incarnate. He humbled himself and took the form of a servant, right? Jesus had to do this pursuant to our salvation. He had to come in the flesh. He had to be born under the law, right? He wasn't just subordinate to the Father, he was subordinate to his own parents, right? Jesus was, it says he submitted himself to his father and his mother. His father, obviously, by adoption, Joseph, and his biological mother by means of the virgin birth, Mary, right? He was conceived of the Virgin Mary and born of her. Well, Jesus was even subordinate to them. Nobody would say that there's not another sense in which Jesus was not subordinate to them, right? He was subordinate to them by virtue of taking on a human nature and being born into the world, right? And he had to obey his earthly parents. In the same way, he also had to obey the Father. He became a servant. Mark makes this point in Mark 10:45. He says that the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Why would Mark even need to say this unless there is a sense in which it could otherwise be expected that people ought to serve him, right? The whole point of saying this is that he really is the one to whom all service is due, and yet he didn't come for that purpose. He came for the purpose of serving rather than being served. And so all these passages that talk about Christ's subordination to the Father or Christ being subordinate in any way, even to his parents, have in view his condescension, his self-humbling, Jesus becoming a human being and being born into the world. Okay, so I hope that helps, Joel. There's obviously a lot more that could be said along those lines.